Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you all had a great spring and hopefully are enjoying slowing down a little here at the summer as it begins and you have all your processes aligned and so forth. I am super excited for today's webinar. We'll be going over just some general summer functions that have to do with both business concepts and ClipXC. The two Daves will be co-hosting this webinar. Dave 1 is the president and founder of Clip Software, and Dave 2 heads up the product development. And we'll also have Allison here. She is the field manager of Clip Lawn Care, and this will be her first appearance on a Clip webinar, so we're excited to have her with us today as well. We've been working hard lately, especially with a couple of projects over here. We're actually in the middle of renovating our office to optimize space as we're growing. But something more relevant that we've been doing is putting together the details of the 2014 conference. And next week we'll be sending out an email about that. We'll be limiting the registration to only 100 people, so don't wait too long to register if you want to attend. You can contact your account manager for more details about that. And that's everything that I have, so let's go ahead and get started.
All right, well, welcome. We're going to talk about summer functions today and for Clip Lawn Care, and that's basically because we're in the middle of the summer. We know that a lot of people are either busy or they're out recovering from having a really busy spring and trying to get everything together. I know most people attend these webinars during the wintertime when you've got time, you can sit down, you can think about how great the next year is going to be. But now actually is a really important time for you to start looking at your company and say, are we doing the right thing? And that's kind of what we wanted to look at. It's going to be a little informal. We're going to be going over a number of different things. First, we'll go over just a few PowerPoint slides, and then after that, we're going to get into some reports and things out of Clip that you should probably be paying attention to at this time in your company. So I watch my family. We're all into business. We love business, and so we watch a lot of business shows. And one of the business shows that I like to watch quite a bit is one called The Profit, and it's very interesting. It's P-R-O-F-I-T, Profit, and it's Marcus Lemonis, who's the owner of Camping World. He goes out and he tries to fix businesses that are struggling. And he makes a big deal out of it constantly that to him a business is comprised of three things: people, product, and process. So we're going to be using that as our outline today, and we're going to be going over our own companies, and hopefully this will have relevance to you. I know it will. It will have relevance to you, and you'll be able to see, look at your company from the three perspectives. Are the people right? Is the product right? Is the process right? And if you look at those three things, usually one of those could either be fixed or be enhanced or help. If you're having problems in your company, it's probably one of those that are falling by the wayside. Now, the other thing I have here is I have an or, and I have four different things. And that's when I'm involved in reviewing our Clip Lawn Care company and seeing what it is, I like to use these four categories to go over. How are our customers doing? How are the employees doing? How is the equipment? And how is the management doing? And that's what I would use as my outline whenever I'm reviewing the company to see where the company is and what's going on. So those fit. There's two different ways for you to look at it. I would probably recommend that you think about it as we go through this. Think about which way you would like to do it. But if you have an outline that you use when you go over and when you review your company, it's going to be a lot easier for you to be able to review it and see where it is and then do it again and over again. I've mentioned this a number of times, but I really like the book called The 1 Minute Manager. The 1 Minute Manager really helps you to understand these reviews. There's another one called Death by Meeting, which helps you very much understand the different types of meetings that you need to have and how you can make them work better or et cetera for you. So people, product, process, that's what we're going to talk about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the people. People are what make a business. Without people, it's really hard to have a business. And so we're going to ask you, are your employees productive? Are you using Piecework? Of course, we've given a number of presentations, webinars, et cetera, on Piecework. We also have a white paper that we've been putting together that has, I think it's about 20, 25 pages of questions and answers about Piecework. If you're interested in that, then contact us and we'll let you know how you can attain it. But we've been working on that pretty hard to try to answer a lot of questions about Piecework. If you are not in Piecework, if you're not doing Piecework, then you probably really need to get get right on that right at this point. So I'll make this full screen so that we can look at it completely, which we can't at this point because that's not the way I have it set up. We're just going to leave it alone, and we'll be able to see it from there. So your piecework is important because it actually makes your employees partners with you, and they're as concerned about getting the work done as you are. Now, Allison, you're here with us today, and you're a field manager, and you haven't done lawn care in the past. In fact, you worked as an office manager, as a legal assistant to an office of lawyers. So coming over into lawn maintenance was probably quite the jolt for you. And not only did you come over here into lawn maintenance, but lawyers are renowned for charging every 15-minute increments and things like that. So there was a whole change in the way people are paid and the way people are done. Why don't you give us your feelings on what were your reactions when you understood how piecework worked, and then now being able to manage the guys as they're on piecework? How has that affected you, or what differences do you see?
I like the piecework process. I think that it works very well. The guys are very conscious of how much time they have been allotted, and they do try to do their best work within the time frame. And I think that it's a very positive way to do it, instead of me having to follow behind them and check up and push them to work faster or get certain things done. It's all on them. They have the incentive built in, and so it works very well, from my opinion. I like it a lot.
If anything, they probably don't complain about having too much work. If anything, they're complaining that you don't have enough work. I know that they have presented that to us a few times in the past. What have been can you give us any stories of how they've come to you and said, we need more hours, we need to get more work, we need to grow the company? How has that been working?
That has definitely happened this year. We have been, the gentleman who was helping me to manage the workers, one of the guys from Mexico, is the one who has come to me and asked me if they can give out more flyers, what can they do to get more work. They definitely want to be working more. They want to be working longer hours so that they can take more money home.
Yeah, so it sounds like once you introduce piecework, you can actually get your guys to focus on growing your company and making it more profitable for you. So in our case, we didn't have enough work, so they say, hey, what can we do? And we give them some marketing work. So not only are they working out in the field, but they're also keeping their eye on marketing.
Yes, it definitely gives them the incentive to be salespeople, not hardcore, just to be out there and do their best work. I think a lot of it is done that way, by being so good at what they do, so professional. That's what we hear from a lot of people, that I see your guys out there, they're very professional, they're very courteous, and that speaks for itself. So they have the incentive to be that kind of a worker, and then they ask for the opportunity to go look for more work.
So you haven't had to really crack the whip on them and say, let's get going, because they tend to do it themselves. What has been the difference between, you managed people that were hourly, and they got paid by that. What type of difference do you see between the way people were at the office and the way these guys are right now?
Well, the most obvious is they just don't waste a lot of time sitting around talking. That's something that happens more when you are just sort of salary or you're hourly. They are very focused on getting the work done, and so they're out there working. They have no time to mess around.
Yeah, they're actually pushing us as management to give them more work and keep them going. And they want to know what they're going to do on Saturday, and they want to know what they're going to do when it rains and all that kind of stuff. So if you're not doing piecework, you really need to look at that and go back and see some of our webinars. We won't spend a lot more time on that. But if you're not doing piecework, at least have some bonuses in place, because you really do get what you pay for. And if you put a bonus in place and tell people that this is the way it has to be done, and you're going to get a little bonus if you do it right and things like that, they start focusing on that and they start moving that. Allison, could you tell us a little bit about how we do our damage control and our damage things with our customers? Employees, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, with the damage control, some things are out of their control, but if there is damage, they report it immediately to me, and so we mitigate right away. I will contact the customer, let them know what we did. A lot of times just putting it out there, there may not even be any repercussions. It's just they appreciate the fact that we recognized it and we owned it. And can I address the bonuses as well?
Sure.
Okay, well, we do have a bonus besides the piecework, which is incentive enough. We do have a bonus program, so it works both ways. They start out with $25. If we get a compliment, they get an additional $5. If they have a complaint against them, we take away. So more and more, it's a lot of positives, and that's sometimes hard to get. People are more inclined to complain than be positive, but we are on Angie's List, and we've had people take their time to go on there and review us, so it really works well, and the guys are striving towards that. It works well.
What do you think the guys would do? Because they know that if they get a compliment, they're going to get $5 cash. And so what types of things do you think the employees are trying to do? Remember, these guys don't speak English, so what they have to do, they have to reflect it in their work. Do you see any positive movement on their part to say, wow, I want to get a compliment from this customer?
Well, I think that their standard is very high and they are just very consistent, but I think they listen sometimes to the criticisms that may have come before, and they use that then to strive to be better. So they might try a little harder, even if it's not in their, if the time might not be allotted to them in their piecework, they might take that extra time just to keep that customer happy, because then the longevity of the customer's relationship with us will be more beneficial to them.
So basically they see it as they have their own little company inside of our company, which is the way we want to see it. Another thing I wanted to comment on is every time that we've done a review for Jorge's the guy who's in charge of the workers underneath Allison. Every time we've done a review with him, he always starts out the meeting with saying, what am I doing wrong and what can I do better? And just imagine that from your employees, having somebody come to you right away and say, what am I doing wrong and what can I do better? That's a real learning thing. I've been reading this book called Thinking Like a Freak. It's a very interesting book. And one of the things it says, what are the 3 hardest words in the English language to say? And some people say it's I love you, because it's commitment and stuff. But what this book says is I don't know. It's so hard for us to admit that we don't know something. But you know what? We can never learn unless we do. So that's what we have to do. Dave, did you have a comment that you wanted to give?
Just somebody was asking what is piecework. They hadn't heard of it, so I think it would be good to go back and define it just real quick. So what piecework is piecework is paying based on production. So we pay the guys based on how much they get done. Some companies handle this different ways. The way that we do it is we have a goal for all of our customers based on what we're trying to gross per hour. Excuse me. And then the guys have an hourly rate. So if they get 1 hour worth of production done, then they get their hourly rate for that hour.
All right, and basically every property is rated as so many minutes, and then everyone has their own hourly rate. So one guy, I think our lowest guy makes $10.15 per hour, and our highest one makes $16.50. But that's per hour produced. If your pricing is right, you would want your employees to be able to do a little better than 100%, getting close to 110, 120%, at least over the season. So, of course, in August it's going to be faster than it is in May. But you want them to be able to attain that goal. If you have an impossible goal for them to attain, let's say it takes them an hour and a half to do a lawn that you've rated as 45 minutes, well, that's impossible. It's discouraging, and your employees are not going to be happy, which is our next point on our good segue into it. Next point, are your employees happy? That's a great question. Why don't you ask them? Just sit them down and ask them and say, are you happy? Remember, we're talking about people. What type of cultural differences do you find? I know that because of my background and where I was raised in Mexico, and so I consider myself bicultural. I understand that you say things differently, and I've said this often. I think you've probably heard me say it before, but in the Latin culture, when you're having a discussion with your boss, and your boss says something like, I think we ought to do it this way, in the Latin culture, that's the end of the discussion. That's it. Okay, the boss said he thinks he ought to do it this way. There's no discussion. Now, in the American culture, when the boss says, I think we ought to do it this way, that's the beginning of the discussion. because they expect a trusted employee to come back and say, no, that's wrong, it won't work because of this. And I think that's where we actually had a situation like that with lowering the blades to a certain measurement that was wrong, and the employees didn't feel like they could question management about it. So culturally, there are some cultural differences that have to happen, and you have to keep track of those, especially if you're dealing with Hispanics. Do you have any other examples of something like that, Allison?
Well, actually, going back to that exact example, it was a slight problem, but I did like the fact that Jorge was able to come to me and say, I don't agree with that, and this is why, and then we were able to work through it. And for me, I have the added layer of being a woman in a Hispanic male culture, but it's working very well. They feel very comfortable coming to me, and I think I've gained a level of confidence with them that they are fine with that. And we do meet. I do ask them how they're doing. Going to have them over this Sunday for a cookout, so trying to keep them happy in that way and discuss different issues. And if we have a company meeting where we're talking about maybe some complaints that have happened, I want to make sure that they're telling us also how they feel about how things are being run, so there's open conversation about everything.
That's right, and you're doing a great job. And by the way, today is Allison's birthday, so happy birthday to you. But Allison has the advantage of you were married to a Hispanic, and and you spent some time also in San Salvador. And so you have that advantage of understanding this culture and understanding the way it was, and that was one of the great valuable things that you brought into this. So another point here is management by walking around. Dave, would you like to address that point right there? What does that mean, management by walking around?
It just means that as people are getting ready, say in the morning in the shop, you're walking around, watching what they're doing, open to a conversation. If they have something to bring up, they know that they can come up to you, and you're asking them how they're doing, checking in with them. It's a management principle, I believe, from the 1-Minute Manager, and it's just it's important to have a culture, a business culture, where you're open to talking to them about what's going on. And I think it kind of ties into the next point too, which is just ask them, are you achieving your goals and dreams as a person? So as business owners, we have a bunch of goals that we have set up that we're trying to hit and stuff. It's important to also ask them, how are you doing in your life? Do you have personal goals that you're trying to get? Take an interest in your people. And try to check in with them. If they're talking about their personal life and stuff, then talk to them about that. Be interested. These are real people, so make sure that you're treating them like you would want to be treated.
They're real people, and I think it makes, particularly if you're dealing with Hispanics, it makes and maybe other cultures as well. I don't know, but. It makes a big difference if you just take an interest in them. One of the things I did is I went down there in February and visited with them, and we had a cookout at one of their homes, and I took pictures of their family. So I've been lax, but I finally got them printed, and I bought some frames, and we're going to put them in the frames, and we're going to give them to the guys so that they have that. I know that one of our guys, Jorge, also both of his children have birthdays within a week of each other, actually within a couple of days of each other. And it's in the summer, and he's never gone down. He's worked for us, I think, 7 years now, and he's never gone down and visited them at that time. So this year we're making sure that he gets down there, whether he likes it or not. We're going to send him down there to be there with his kids and their birthdays. So stuff like that is important. Just take an interest in who they are. They will, particularly if you're dealing with an H-2B or Hispanics or something like that, they'll work their hearts out for you. But make sure that you understand that they are real people. Now, what is this that we have here? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Now, Allison, you've got an MBA, so you probably know what that means. I'm going to let you explain that.
All right. It's not that technical, my knowledge, but it is basically, if you think of a pyramid kind of thing, on the bottom you have needs such as shelter, food, things to survive. And as you go up the hierarchy, you can get more sophisticated. So as long as you are satisfied with the lower level of your needs, you can then build on them. So then you get other things that are become more like wants, but then that become needs as you attain those. And you get up to the top where you're fulfilling things like caring for others. So you first have to take care of yourself and all of your needs to be able to take care of others. And maybe Dave, you can expand on that?
Sure, yeah. Some of the examples are, I mean, you have to have water, food, shelter before you're really going to worry too much about friendship and stuff. So you have to cover some of the basic needs first. So just as managers, it can help us kind of focus on, okay, where are these people at? You know, what kind of benefits can I offer them to help them, you know, fulfill some of those things. So I guess it helps to kind of see where you can motivate them and how you can do that. Let me show an example real quick.
So basically, if you're a refugee in a Rwandan camp and you haven't eaten in 5 or 6 days, you're not really all that interested in self-fulfillment or in friendship and a personal achievement. What you really want is some food. And so you need to get that food there. And what this does for you is when you look at your employees and you treat them as people, remember we're talking about the people side of things, what will happen is you look at your own people and see where they are on this triangle. How far up have they gotten, and are you up to this other one? And then try to get them, try to move them up this hierarchy of needs so that they can do that. And we all understand what that is. Now, Dave, you're the presenter, so we're seeing this this hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy. Do you have anything else to say about that?
No, I don't.
Okay, so then we move on to product. So we talked about the people. Remember, people, product, and process is what we're going to talk about. So product, when was the last time you spot checked? I'm amazed when I talk with business owners and they say they don't go out and spot check their lawns. Yes, it takes a little bit of time, but you know what? That is the product. That's why you exist, to get these things done. So have you driven around and have you spot checked some of these lawns to see how they're doing? Let's catch the problem before the customer calls and before the customer complains and before our guys get into bad habits. Let's make sure that they're trimming correctly and they're not doing that sort of thing. So just checking. You get what you inspect, not what you expect. We've talked about that quite a bit. Have you checked the blades and everything else that is used on your customers? Are you getting positive feedback? Allison, tell us how you fulfill these things for our product.
Okay, well, I have done spot checking, and I've reported that back to the guys, and I've also suggested to Jorge that the men can benefit from that. If I spot check and I see that everything is the way it should be, I can serve as one of their positive feedback people. If we don't hear from the regular customers that they're doing a great job, if I spot check and I think it's a good enough job, and I have an evaluation list of what I will go through, then I can give them the $5 for their incentive program. I have not personally checked the blades, but I know that Jorge is checking the blades, and he is on top of all the machinery and making sure that everything's in working order. And we're definitely getting positive feedback from the customers. We're getting the people, as I said, who go onto Angie's List, and they take that time because they have to pay to be on Angie's List. I believe, well, I don't really know how it works, but it's definitely taking time out of their day to go on there. And we have an A rating at this point, and we've had quite a few people go on there.
And we've actually gotten an award from Angie's List for being one of their, whatever their gold or platinum or something like that services. What about our core competency, Dave? You were talking about this, quality, price, service. You explain that? What do you mean by that?
Sure. As a business, you kind of have to pick what you're going to do. So if you went out and said, hey, I'm going to be a search engine, I'm going to go compete with Google, I'm going to create a new one, and nobody's going to go find it. They have to have a reason that it's better than Google. So what's your reason that you're better than your competition? So do you do better quality? Do you offer a lower price? Or do you have better service? So service would be like, do you pick up the phone right away when the customer calls? Do you get right back to them on emails and voicemail and that type of thing? Are you staying in touch? Are you easy to contact? But you, as a business, people like to say, oh, I'm going to do all three of those. I'm going to be super great quality and a super cheap price. That doesn't work. That won't work. So in general, people say pick one and then stick with that. So at CLC, our main thing is our price. We will get your lawn cut. We'll get the chemical applications out there. We'll do a good job, but we're not going to be the best. We're not going to service somebody and have them be the best lawn in, you know, all of Frederick City. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people a good price and save them time on cutting the grass so that they don't have to do it themselves. There are other companies out there that will give you a perfect cut, stripe the lawn, they'll overseed, they'll do everything to make that lawn look as good as it possibly can. That's not what we do. So pick one and stick with it and be really good at it. Make sure that you're really good at one of those, but don't try and focus on all three.
And that's our emergency lawn service that's on its way out to cut somebody's lawn. No, I'm kidding. But you can pick one, or some people say pick two as well. But you can't have all three. And I would say we focus on price. We have a low price, not the lowest, but we have a low price. And we focus on service. We're going to be reliable. We're going to be there. And we're going to answer your phones. We're going to answer your emails and things like that. We do not focus on quality. People might say, whoa, what is that? How can you not? Well, it's because that's not who we are. It's Walmart. You walk into Walmart. Walmart is going to have price, and maybe that's it, maybe price. But they're going to have they focus on price. Look at their big slogan as you walk in. It's like lowest price always, or something like that is what they say. And so they focus on price. If you go to Nordstrom's, you go to Lord & Taylor's, you go to one of those highfalutin places, they're going to have quality and they're going to have service. Somebody's going to come up to you and they're going to be really good and they're going to be professional, but you're going to pay through the nose. And so they can't compete on price, and neither do they try to. So I've seen a lot of companies that have failed when they try to do all three. You can't do all three. Certainly you should focus on one, and you can do two. You can pick a second one as a secondary one. And that's what we sell. We sell our price and we sell our service. We say that we're professional. You want to comment on that?
I would agree. Yes, I see the price and service as being very strong for us. The quality is not such it's important, but it's not our focus. The price, it's interesting. There's just a little anecdote I will tell you. The girl who works in the office, she lives far away from us, and so we cannot service her lawn. She's a good 45 minutes away. So she was looking for her own lawn care service in her area and went to Home Buyer, or whichever one it is, the Home Advisor. She got some calls, and they were all so expensive. She put herself into our database and said, I shouldn't pay more than this and such. This is what CLC would charge me. And the other people they were having a hard time coming down to that price. So we definitely have a good price. And then with service, we are very responsive. We try to get back to people within a certain amount of time as to when they email or call us. And then, as I said, if any of the guys has an issue and something happens at a property, they immediately let me know and we address it. So we are very strong.
So that's the way we do it with Clip Lawn Care. One of the reasons why we can be cheap or inexpensive, so we say, with Clip Lawn Care is because we only service certain areas, and we stay really focused on those areas. So our drive time is, we don't want to charge the customer for drive time. We're not going to do every job that comes our way. We're actually going to say no a couple of times, and that's good. Dave, you had a question?
I just had one last comment. Is remember, this isn't this quality doesn't mean the quality. It doesn't mean that customers don't like us. We are getting positive feedback for what we do, but we make sure that customers know what we're trying to do. So if they say, hey, my lawn needs to be spotless, then we say, okay, maybe you're looking for one of our competitors, and pass them off to somebody else.
You want to find the right fit, and I've done this with a lot of webinars. I explain how a business is fitting employees to customers. So you want to find the right employees that want to work under the systems you've created, and you want to find the right customers that want the level of quality and the level of systems that you have, service and price that you want. It can be all different things. There's no one size fits all, but what does happen is make sure that you have the right people. both customers and employees. And if you have that and it clicks together, boom, everything starts to come together. So we probably should move on to process. So let's talk about the process. That's more about Clip. Before we move on to that, I'd say Sensible Software, where we Clip software, where we sit with this price, quality, and service, is I think we try to concentrate on quality and service. We have been hiring more service techs. We've been buying more software to service you better. We've been doing everything we can to make your tech support a more pleasant experience, and we have more programmers working, and we've slowed down the amount of enhancements that we're doing in order to keep the quality up. And our price is not the cheapest out there. You can get some free stuff out there, but we think that the service and the quality is what's important for the software. Now, for the Clip Lawn Care, we focus on price and service. So let's talk about the process now of how you're doing it. Are you recording times? If you're not recording times in Clip, you're missing out on huge. Now is the time to do it, because when we get to the end of the season, we start talking about rebidding and how you're going to create that 20 or 30% profit. It's because you have the right data. If you don't have the right data, if you're not recording the in and the out time for every job, for every employee that's on there, you are going to miss it out. And of course, the easiest way to do that is with Clip to Go. How is that working out for us, Allison?
Oh, Clip to Go is wonderful. I love it. The guys all have it on a handheld device, and they know how to use it. They use it every day. They use it faithfully, and so when I go in to review what they have done during the day, which I do every day, I'm able to easily follow what they did. They group different jobs together, and so that evens out the time. It's a wonderful product. I love it.
Now, we got to think about this. These are Hispanics that have hardly had a smartphone in their life, most of them, and they certainly don't have laptops at home. I know that because I've been to their homes. So they're kind of computer phobic almost, and yet they're able, and they don't speak English, and yet they're able to use Clip to Go. Can you speak to that, Allison?
Well, there is a translation module to Clip to Go, so most of it is in Spanish. They don't really need to know the English. And so we put notes in there as well. Anytime that you have a customer, we will, if there's a special note, the customer calls and says, hey, can you tell the guys to watch this one area or do this with a trimmer or such, I will put that in there, and then it will translate. There's a translate part of it, so that you just hit the translate. And as a Spanish-speaking person, I can verify that it's pretty faithful as long as the person inputting the English part is spelling things correctly. That's important. But that's very, very helpful. So it's very rare that they will call me and say, hey, can you help me tell me what this says in this note, because it's already translated for them. And then they can put notes back to me, which is really helpful. So if they get to a home and I'm driving in the car or whatever, they call me about something, I say, hey, put a note to me. So that night I download all of their work, and those notes show up for me, and I can then put those into their customer record and address those different issues.
Now, we're big on documenting everything in our process and knowing exactly what the corporate knowledge is that we need to share. We use, obviously, we created and use Know-It-All. We also have been using Evernote for some of our information as well, trying to get a feel for it and what it does. You really need to do this, and I love it that Allison is here with us. As you came into this company, Allison, coming from a totally different industry and everything else, having that knowledge at your fingertips, what did that do for you?
Well, it cuts down a lot on the having to go to someone and ask how to do something, because it's all at your fingertips. With the Evernote, it's a little cumbersome because sometimes when you're searching, you don't get the results that you want. But I've learned how to sort of go around that. But having the documents that are step by step, and then being able to follow that and not have to go back to Dave or someone else and say, how did you do this again? I don't have to write anything down. It's all written down for me. It's all very much a process.
And that made it easy on us also when we brought Allison in as the field manager. There's a lot of information that she needs to learn and have access to, but we didn't have to spend months and months and months training her, because we could say, just go ask, go enter in the keywords and find the information. So we're able to do that. We're sticklers for process around here. We just love systems. We love process. We love documenting everything that needs to go. Are you ready to delegate? That's one of my questions. I really like this. I tend to probably delegate maybe too much. I've been accused of not training people, not taking the time to teach them how to do stuff. But the other side of the coin for me is that if I don't allow people to go ahead and make their own mistakes and do things the way they want to and have their own ideas and things like that, then they're always going to be coming back to me, and I'm never going to be able to leave and move out of this. Now, Dave, you've been working here for a while, and actually I raised you, so you know my style. But speak to the delegation. How do you delegate? How have you been delegated to, and how do you feel about that? And are there any tips that are lawn maintenance companies should learn from that?
I think it's important to have somebody in your business that's good at delegating. So even if it's somebody that you hire, typically they'd end up in a foreman or a management position. But there's definitely an art to delegating. So you have to focus more on what people are doing and how you're going to get to the end of a project. I'd say it even has a lot of project management skills involved with it. Being delegated to, sometimes I get a little less information than I need, but it's good for me to be able to go back to know-it-all and find it. Also, I've become better at finding information online, searching for what I need instead of going back and asking the person that delegated it to me. Sometimes it can be a little tough. Sometimes you do have to go back, but it's making some of your own decisions, making some of your own choices. So I do feel like I have the power to make decisions and do things when somebody delegates things to me. I think that's important as well. You don't want to say, hey, you're in charge of this entire project of installing a retaining wall, but I'm not going to let you, but you don't have permission to pick out or buy materials or talk to the customer. So you really haven't delegated. If you're giving somebody a project, make sure that they have the tools that they need as well and the authority to use those tools.
And let them go and let them do it and let them make their mistake, because you know what, it's easier to fix. I know a retaining wall is probably a big project, but smaller projects, let's say, it's easier to fix that project and train your employees so that they can delegate it than for you to have your fingers in everything and have to constantly be on every job. You're restricting your growth and you're restricting what you can do as a person unless you open it up and allow people to go ahead and make mistakes. And it's okay. It's all right if they make mistakes. It's fine, because we're trying to give them more power, and that way we have less work on our part. So another question I have, do you have articles explaining every part of your business? That would be in Know-It-All. Do you know if you're making money? Are you using QuickBooks? Are you looking at your P&Ls? Are you seeing your reports, your daily reports? Are you able to see which customers are making you more money and which customers are making you less, and be able to make decisions based on that? That's so important, and yet most of us are so busy with our businesses that we don't have time to actually look at our businesses. And the way Michael Gerber would say that, we're so busy working in our business that we don't have time to work on our business. And that's what some of these webinars should be, is they should pull you back and say, no, start working on your business. Start making your business more autonomous, more profitable, a more pleasant place to live, a place to work. You have to move in that way. Then you get hassled with equipment breakdowns, etc., repairs. If you do, maybe you got to think about something. I mean, one of the things that we've been thinking about is we've been buying junk trucks and junk van and stuff like that. We're starting to rethink that and say, well, maybe we ought to spend a little more money. Our equipment, the actual mowers and the trimmers and the blowers, are brand new all the time. We're always getting the newest stuff. But our actual transportation mode is old and breaking down, and sometimes that's hurt our production. I know our van has been down now for 10 days or almost 2 weeks, and that's been hurting us quite a bit. So we're thinking about, hey, maybe we ought to spend a few $1,000s more and get something better for that. You want to speak to that, Allison?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it is very difficult when the van is breaking down. We can't go out and do the fertilization, but I guess this goes back to delegating with the decision needing to be made about whether we would try to be fertilizing at all due to, it's actually the van is semi-working, but it's the pump that pumps the water out, and this round of fertilizing requires water. So Jorge came up with an idea to get the fertilizing done. So it is being done. It's just going a little bit slower, and then just different decisions have to be made about that. So it can be a hassle, but we have a system where we have an extra mower, 2 extra mowers, so that if something is happening with the machines, we can figure out what's going on. And Jorge is becoming the go-to guy, so the guys have to report to him all of the things. He needs to check it out and make sure that what they're saying is real. We've had some incidents where there were not actually problems. It was more user problems. So with having Jorge be the go-to guy, that helps a lot, so that it's not little things coming to me.
So we keep on developing people into positions that they didn't initially think they were going to do, but they can do it, and they have the ability to do that. So the business in the box, Dave, did you want to speak to that?
It's just a concept that your business is a process that happens, and you're the link between employees, production, and the work that needs to get done, which is customers. So make sure that your business is smooth. Make sure that you have a way of handling normal stuff that happens. So if equipment breaks down, make sure you have a mechanic on call, or a small shop that you can turn that into. Make sure that your process is running smoothly, and make sure that you have things in place so that if something does break, that it'll get fixed right away.
And that's good, and so that takes us to the end of the process. Remember, people, product, and process. All businesses are made out of people, product, and process. So I hope that this is helping you to give you some questions and stuff like that. Now let's go into some practical stuff. For example, Allison had a report that she runs that she thought was very, very helpful. So tell us about that report, and we'll see if Dave can pull that up on his screen.
I think it was the efficiency report that we were talking about, just to check and see how efficient things were being run this year. I don't have it right in front of me, though.
All right, so we're getting it. We're pulling it up right now, and we'll have it up on the screen here in a second. But it's the efficiency report. What do you use that for, Allison? Why is that an important report for you?
That would be an important report to see if we are bidding out the jobs correctly. The way we tend to do things is the people will sign up for a special so that the guys can go out there and we can see how much time it takes them, and then we go back and we look at how long it took them, and if there were any special requirements, if there was a gate that was difficult to get into. I had someone report that they couldn't get into the gate, so they were doing it all with the trimmer, so that's something we have to reevaluate. So that kind of thing, and then we can bid out the jobs, send them an agreement, and try to sign them up that way.
That's almost a cultural thing. It is amazing sometimes when you do stuff, and these guys get so stuck on doing what you told them to do, and you don't really want them to do what you told them to do. You're looking better for them to use their mind and complain to you and tell you that. And sometimes they're such good workers that they don't even do that. So. But I think we're ready for this report. There we go, and we got it up there. So tell us about the report, Dave.
Sure. The employee efficiency report. The employee efficiency report is just a way of keeping track of if your guys are hitting their goals or not. So you should be filling the budgeted man hours inside of CLIP, and then recording the actual man hours that it takes your guys to do it, and then you can pull employee efficiency reports to figure out how your guys are doing, and then also pulling job costing reports to figure out if you're making money on the customers that you're servicing.
So this is able to show us, and I think we have I think in one of our other webinars we talked a lot about this report. But this is able to show us whether somebody is up to par. For example, you can see, what is it, the third entry there for 515. Budgeted versus paid is at 95%. The next one is 96%. There's one at 23%. So you'd want to go back and you want to look at that and say, well, what's wrong with that? Why is it at 23%? That's an anomaly. We've got to figure out what's going on and what are we doing wrong here. So we could use that as a good thumbnail or put your finger on the pulse or whatever you want to call it of your company to know, are we hitting our numbers each time?
The goal for piecework, for those who were wondering about piecework, would be that if you look at the budgeted man hours as opposed to the actual man hours, you would pay according to the budgeted man hours, but it actually took them a lot less time. So they're doing a really good job. They're being efficient, and then you're just paying them according to what you budgeted in, so the company's also making money.
Right. So if you want to look at the budgeted versus actual, you can see that, say the 5/13. So on May 13th, he had four budgeted man hours to do. So we were going to, let's say we pay him $10 an hour. So then that would be $40. Instead, he got it done in 2 hours. So really, he ended up making $20 an hour because he got it done in half the time. So as long as the job was done well, then that's great. That's a win for us because we're still only paying $10 per production hour that we bill to the customer, and he's making twice as much. So.
It's also a win for us because it gives him twice as much time, if I want to call it that, in the day. So basically he can do twice as many jobs in a day because he's at 200% efficiency. So he can do 16 hours worth of production. And if our charge is $45 per hour, then if he does 16, you just take 16 times 45, and that gets us the gross sales for that day for that person. And it's only one person on one crew that's able to produce that. If that's the case, what's the gross, Dave?
That would be $720.
$720 versus $360 if he were running at 100% efficiency. So that raises our gross. And granted that we're paying labor there, but all of the fixed costs now are so, in a way, they're cut in half because of our rent and all these other things are half as much because we're doing twice as much work for the same amount of space that we would occupy, the same amount of salary we would pay for the overhead. So that's how you create these efficiencies there. We noticed in doing this, we noticed something with our cleanups, and I wanted Allison just to quickly talk to us about what happened with cleanups earlier this year and the decisions and how we came to those decisions and just the story behind it.
Well, the cleanups are a lot of fun. I enjoy them. They always have a story to tell afterwards because they never go exactly according to plan. But we found that we were not estimating them out very well. There was not the right amount of mulch. There was either too much or too little, so that it created inefficiencies. And some damage was caused inadvertently. It was very strange. It seemed like a lot of people were complaining that something would happen to something. And so it felt like maybe a direction we didn't want to go in if we could not be efficient at bidding these things out. We're reevaluating a little bit because some of our customers are so accustomed to getting this service, and they are long-time, loyal, mowing sometimes the whole package customer, and we don't want to turn around next year and say, oh, we don't do that anymore. So it's kind of a balancing game that we're playing. We want to make money at it, but sometimes the money will be made on just keeping the customer. So, and here again is where I'm delegating, and Jorge's taking on some of that responsibility, and just as long as he understands all of the risks and all of the things we have to cover, we might go forward with that. But it was definitely a learning process. But.
And one thing that allows us to do in our company is make that decision, because we're watching our numbers. We can see that, hey, the efficiency that we're getting on those spring cleanup type jobs isn't what we need. It's not what we're trying to hit as a company, and the guys aren't making money on those jobs either. So it helped us to evaluate those jobs because we see that they're a problem. So you need to be careful to watch your numbers. Figure out if you're doing jobs that actually aren't profitable for you. Actually, some jobs you could be paying the customer to do the job. If you go back and look at some of our webinars on job costing, you'll see what I'm talking about. But it's important to keep an eye on these efficiency ratings Keep an eye on your job costing reports during the summer. Make sure that you're entering in times. If it takes too long, then go get Clip2Go to help you with some of the data entry. But make sure that you've got the numbers that you need to evaluate your company, figure out where you guys can do better, know what your core competency is, and know how to increase your profit and make your guys happier too, and help them make more money too.
Yeah, I just want to bring up the fact that this is a very practical example of what happens when your guys are on piecework. Because if you think about it, we probably would have figured this out eventually, that we were not bidding. Our big problem really was that we weren't bidding our cleanups correctly. We had a little spreadsheet and things like that, but it wasn't right. And so, but we didn't actually catch that. It would have taken us a while, particularly in the busyness of spring. It would have taken us a while to actually get our reports out and know that we weren't making as much money as we needed to from these spring cleanups. But because our guys are paid by piecework, they would look at that, and of course they pay extreme attention to it, and it would say it's 6 hours. There's 6 hours here to be paid to get this job done. And if it was taking them 10 man-hours to get the job done, they immediately would complain to us. So we got the feedback. Our feedback loop was very, very quick. Within the same day where they're getting back to us and saying, there's no way that we can do this job in 6 hours, and it took us 10 hours. So we were able to address it very quickly. What we did is we just came to the conclusion it's too much management, it's too much of a headache, it's too easy to just go and do the mowing, which is very low headaches and very low management. And so we just stopped them completely. We said, let's not do any spring cleanups. Well, that got some pushback from the customers, which we expected, but it also got pushback from the employees because they said, well, you know what, we have some extra time, we want to do more, but let's do it right, and let's get the estimate right. And Jorge came to us and said, can we please do spring cleanups, but let me go and let me estimate them, and let's see if I can get it right. And that's part of delegating. You just say, sure, go for it, try it out.
I'm going to jump in here about Clip2Go again and give it a little bit of a plug, because the wonderful thing about Clip2Go is when I am looking at a job that was done last year and I go into the history, I can double click and I can see how many hours it took last year. So if I'm going to go and I'm going to bid a customer a little higher than last year based on the fact that it took way longer than what we bid it out at, I can have a reason. I can say, okay, well, just to explain to you, this took a lot longer and we actually lost money last year, and it gives us a lot of credibility. Whereas I'm just saying, oh, well, mulch costs more money this year, or making something up. It's a very concrete way to look.
And the customers respond to that because you're not trying to pull a fast one on them, but you have to understand. And see, that's what I like about the whole piecework and the way our business works is we can be open with the customer and we can say, you know what, we need to change this gate or we're not going to do this job for you. We can be open with the employee and we can say, you know what, we've got to make money on this. You've got to go faster or something like that. And we can be open with management and we can say this has to happen in order for everybody to make money and everybody to be happy. We're not trying to bilk anybody. We're not trying to do anything like that. But what we are trying to do is provide the service as efficiently as we possibly can, and that might involve buying bigger equipment. It might involve training. It might involve other things. So just think about that. We're trying to provide a service to our customers that allows them to not go down to Home Depot and buy a lawnmower, and allows our Mexican guys to come up here and to make a decent living and send their money home and take care of their families, and allows us as managers and as business owners to actually reap some profit from putting the system together. And that's really what business is, and that's why business is great, because it can be a blessing to everybody. It's I really hate the bad rap that society tries to put on business, that businesses are bad and they're only out for profit and all this other stuff, when really what I think is business is a wonderful way to benefit and bless other people, and that's just one of the ways that we do it. So we're pretty much out of time right now. And were there any other practical examples that you wanted to give, Dave?
I just agree with you, Dave. I think it is important to keep in mind that business isn't necessarily inherently evil. You just have to be careful. Make sure that you're you're paying attention to your people and your customers. Make sure that you're treating people like you would want to be treated. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, and then also make sure that you're making money. Track your numbers. Check them on a consistent basis. Often we'll keep track of our numbers at least once a week. We keep track of sales. Every day we're checking employee efficiency, and then we have systems in place to make sure that our customers are paying us as well. So make sure that you're keeping track of those things. So that's all I'd add.
Can you show us real quickly that exception report that we have? I think it's under System Setup. A lot of people don't realize that we have that report, but that is a report that you ought to take a look at, because that report can save you some time, and that will be a daily function that will show you exactly where you're out of norm with any one of your employees, customers, productivity, etc. Go ahead, Dave.
Sure. When you're posting jobs, you can actually print the exception report right here, or when you post, you can have it create the report and email it to you if you want to. But the way that you set it up is you go to System and then Financials, go to Exception Report, and then inside of here you can set up different conditions. So this will help you keep track of jobs that are kind of out of the norm. So if you want to see jobs, let's say your mowing jobs are job 1, then you can just have job 1 here and only show it to me if it's under, $30 an hour or over $60 per man hour. That way I know it's not within our target range, which is about $45 an hour, so I know that I need to pay special attention to any mowing jobs that are out of that range. So then I can go back, see what happened. Maybe there was an equipment breakdown, some issue. Maybe it is a bad property, and we need to go and reevaluate that customer.
Or maybe it's bad data.
Prices. Yeah, or maybe it's bad information. I need to go and fix that information. So this report lets you pull up that information every time you post the work. It's a good way to kind of keep tabs on production as you're recording it. So.
And then it can also send a CMS to whoever you decide is the manager, so that when this report gets generated automatically at the end of posting the work, then somebody gets a CMS saying these five jobs were out of whack. You might want to take a look at them. So there's a lot of different reports. Go back, take a look at our webinars on Clip. This was just sort of a touching and saying, where are you for the summer? Let's make sure your data goes in there right, make sure you're looking at the right things, make sure you've got your process, your people, and your product all correct. And if you do, then you're going to have a wonderful summer and an even better year next year, because the foundation that you put at this point in time in summer is training for next year. So thank you, Allison, for being with us. Happy birthday again.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to great stuff. And remember, from me, your success is our business. Cherish, take it away.
Yeah, and I have just a couple of things to go over here before we end. Like I said earlier, we are gearing up for our 25th annual Clip Conference. But just to let you know a little bit more about it, and I see a bunch of other people joined the webinar after I already gave my introduction. The theme will be building an all-star team. So it'll be about 1/3 business concepts, and the other 2/3 will be over Clip functions, features, things like that. We'll have Sean Wolf as our guest speaker. He is the president of Wright Manufacturing and a former business consultant. And I think he still does a little bit of consulting. He does speaking around the country and things like that. We'll also have support techs there that can look over your very own copy of Clip in person. And we have a bunch of other things that we're planning as well. We want to have lots of one-on-one time with you, so we've decided to limit it to only 100 people. So call your account manager if you have any interest at all. Also, be sure to check out our survey at the end of this webinar. There is a question asking about what topics you'd like to see in the future. Let us know how we can serve you better. Well, thank you everyone for attending this morning. We are very grateful for the opportunity that we have to serve you every day. Your success is our business.